Hi everyone, this is Jan, and today I want to go over this Bob Ross grab and go kit. And I haven't seen these before. I mean, they could have been out a couple of years and I wouldn't know when I just came across it. And this one here is for some pink roses, and of course I love pink. So I went ahead and got one of these, and it has everything that you're going to need except your odorless thinner. Let me turn this around. And what this comes with is your paints. You get your paints right here. And what's good is these paints are wrapped up. They're all sealed, so they're not going to leak all over your box. And you have a set of 4 brushes here. You have a flat, a round, a script liner, and a fan brush. And you have some liquid opal. This is for the background. And you have some oil painting medium, which lets your paint flow a little better. But anyway, this is what is on your kit. And you can also, it will also give you your directions. Right here you have a book of your step-by-step instructions. Here, several different languages. And in order to get the pattern on my canvas, they also provide you with a 9x12 canvas, which is really nice. Now the canvas is very good quality. Okay, and before I put my pattern on with graphite transfer paper, I went ahead and sanded it a little bit with some fine grit sandpaper, and I do that to all of my canvases because they're pretty rough whenever you get them. But anyway, what I did to get the pattern on here, they don't furnish you with a pattern. I wish they did. Took a photo of it, and then I cropped it in my iPad, cropped it to where it was cropped to this size, and then I went ahead and printed it on just the regular size printing paper. What is it, 8.5 by 11.5 or something like that. Anyway, I went ahead and just printed that so that it would fit on this size paper, just a regular paper. Okay, then I took tracing paper, which is see-through, and I took a Sharpie and I went ahead and I traced the pattern on. And then once you have the pattern on, then you just go ahead and put your pattern on top of your canvas, tape it down, and you just use some graphite transfer paper. I think it's called Sarel, S-A-R-E-L, something like that. Get it on Amazon. Don't use carbon paper. Then you'll have a big mess. Okay, now I use that because when I do my background and everything, I don't want this to smear. If you use pencil or something, it's going to smear. Okay, so that is the first thing that we needed to do here, was to get our canvas on, our pattern on our canvas. And then I'll open up all the paints here. Now I have a larger kit that I purchased. Now these kits are pretty pricey. The cheapest I found these kits was about $80. To me, that's pricey. But they have a floral painting kit. So if you want to spend maybe $8 more, you can go ahead and get their floral painting kit, which will have this pattern in it, which is very pretty. And I'll paint this, put it up on YouTube too. And you get more paints, and I think he even gets a little bottle of odorless thinner with it. I can't remember, but it'll tell you on your when you look at the kit what comes with that kit. If it comes, it might even come with some liquid white with it. I really can't remember, but you can buy either one of these kits. Now the kits here, the grab and go kits, they have these pink roses, They also have yellow irises, and they also have blue hydrangeas. All of those are really pretty if you wanted to paint those. Now the brushes, I'm looking at a brush set here, and I'm just going to feel of this brush here. Now the brushes have changed over the years. These are synthetic brushes right here that come into the kit. The kits that they used to have before this, it was natural hair mongoose. Those brushes are just excellent brushes, but I guess they don't make those anymore because it's too expensive. So these look like the mongoose, but it's synthetic. You can tell it's synthetic. And the same thing with the fan brush, and the same thing with the round brush here. Yeah, they're all synthetic brushes. Okay, so in order to paint with this kit, you would have to go ahead and get some odorless thinner. You can get that on Amazon, and you can buy bottles. You can buy bottles this size. That's all you need. And you can buy the little jars with the little screens in the jars, and they're real small. They don't take up a lot of room, and a lot of times that's what I use. I like having a little screen on the bottom. They also have jars that have a sponge, and I don't care for the sponge because if you reuse it, it pulls up all this soot that will get in the bottom of that from the oil paints. So I prefer to have a screen on the bottom of my jar of odorless thinner. And when you clean your brushes, I go ahead and use that Masters soap to clean the brushes, because remember, this is oil paint, so you can't use water with these paints here. Now you can use water. They do have water mixable oils, but you would still have to clean it with something else other than just the water. The water, you just kind of rinse it off and blot it. You might as well use oils because you're going to have to clean it that way anyway. So anyway, I wanted to show you this kit, and tomorrow when I come in the morning, I will go ahead and start this, and we will just go ahead and go through this booklet right here, and we will do step-by-step instructions from this booklet. We'll just follow them until we finish our little painting here. Now they do have how to do this painting on Bob Ross. They do have a link that you can click on, and a person will show you how they painted this little painting. Now it's probably going to be I do mine a little differently than what they do on the website, but either one is fine, you know, to follow along and have a cute little painting here. Okay, so don't forget to join me, and tomorrow we'll go ahead and start this cute little painting, and I'll see you then. Okay, bye for now. Now the first thing it tells us to do on our instructions is to paint a thin coat with our 1/2-inch flat brush here, the liquid opal oil paint. Okay, it tells us to do a real thin coat where the background is here, and I saved a little spot here. I'm just pulling out paint as I need it, and I'm more or less just pity-patting and stretching this paint out. I'm working it into the canvas because, let's see, can you see that from down there? Probably not. Okay, I'll hold it here. Into the canvas. The canvas has a texture to it, So what I'm doing is I'm kind of scrubbing this paint into the canvas here. And I'm going over the lip a little bit here, or the edge right here. But I'm putting this around where it recommends on the instructions here, and you can see the instructions all around the outside of the canvas. Now it does tell us the next thing we need to do is put a little mauve around some of the edges there. If I do that, I'm just going to do a little bit, not very much, because I like this opal color, but I will put a little bit of the mauve in some of the recessed areas. I think that would be pretty, and then I'll just go ahead and walk it out. So I'll put a little mauve in these recessed areas. Maybe over here, this is a recessed area. I don't want to cover up the light color there. I think that light color is very pretty. But I can work it and walk it out into some of these other areas here. So now I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to softly blend some of this color into the background here. I'm just going to walk out this color. Let's go right up here. See how I have quite a bit there? I'm just going to walk it out a little bit and soften it. I can pick up color from here and I can just move it anywhere I want to in little indented areas here where it recesses. Let's pick up some more. Got a little recessed area over here and here. And I'll just add a little bit of that mauve color. Now they call it mauve. They, instead of mauve, I call it mauve, so I'm gonna stay with mauve. They call it mauve. So I'm just gonna do some soft blends of this mauve color. Isn't that pretty? I like that. I didn't want this mauve color to go all into the light purple. It's not purple, it's kind of a lavender mix. I just wanted to hit and miss some of the areas there, so I am changing that. Just don't want to cover it up. Let me go down here a little bit. Just some soft blends. See, I'm down here and you can't see me, but down at the bottom here. And I'll just leave that right there. Now remember, oils will stay wet for days. So once I get the flowers in, I can come back and add a little bit of flower color in here. And that will look really nice. Let's add a little bit more depth right in here. Okay, and then I'm just going to lighten up on my blending stroke and just feather it out. Okay, everyone, I think I'm about finished with the mauve color. And remember, you want a light coat on this, okay? This pearl color, liquid opal color is thinned down so that it's nice and loose. So really work it into your canvas when you're doing this. And I will take and I will just clean my brush out on the canvas here. And then before I'm finished, I'll just take a paper towel. I dirty brush all my brushes here. I don't clean them until I'm finished. And I'll just pinch this. I'm using shop towels. Those are more absorbent. I'm just pinching, lightly pull some of that paint off. Okay, and now I'm ready to go into another color. And then just set your brush aside. Also remember, oils don't dry for quite a while, and so always put your brushes on a paper towel next to you. You want paper towels wherever you're going to lay your brushes, because you don't want to get oil on your surface, like if you're on a table, or I'm on a little matte surface here. You don't want this oil all over the place, because you'll get in it when you finish your oil and go back to acrylics, and you'll pick that up and it'll get on your arms, on your brushes and everything else. Now, another thing I've done, I have a little cup here, and I have a little bit of this Bob Ross oil painting medium in there, because this is the medium that we use for oil paints. Be the same thing in acrylics as your floating medium or your extender, either one. Okay, so I have that ready to go, and the next thing that I will do is start blocking in. Let's check my instructions here. And the next thing we're going to do, they start blocking in their leaves, because the leaves are behind the flowers. So I'll come back and we will block in our leaves. I have them sketched out here, and once we do that, then we'll come back in and we will block in our flowers. So I'm going to go ahead and block in all the leaves, and then I'll block in all the flowers, and I'll come back whenever we start to do the underpainting here, okay? So I'll go ahead and get all that done so you don't have to watch me do all of that. All right, I'll be back in a few. Now for the leaves, I wanted to show you how I block those in. I used 3 colors. I used the yellow, the green, and the mauve. And for the back part, I put the mauve, and the green would be the medium color, and I put the yellow on the tip of the leaf. Okay, let's move up here. On these down here, 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Put the dark color up under where a leaf would come over the top, the medium color in the middle, and the yellow on the edge. And the same thing over here, and the same thing over here. And I just roughly blended the edge here. When you have a edge and you just bring the paint right up to the edge, you can just soften that edge there, and just wipe your brush on a paper towel. And then I did do the blot where I pinched it like this, and then gently pulled, and it took off the excess paint on that. Okay, and then it leaves your brush ready to go on and block in the florals. Now the florals are basically a thin coat of the peach color, the pink color there. And what I will do, I think I'll go ahead and with this is going to be a little darker there. See, you have the mauve. Yeah, see, you're going to have the mauve coming in, and then the dark under here. So they do have you go ahead and cover the whole flower in this floral pink color. And you want a thin coat, so what I would do is just go ahead and dip the corner of my brush in a little medium, and I would just pull out the paint. Let's see if I can get my painting palette out here. Here we are. And pull out the paint like this when you're oil painting. Right like that. Okay, and you may have to dip into a little medium as you pull it out, because some of your colors will be a little dry. Some of them are not real dry, but just go ahead and start in the middle and just work your color into the canvas, and then pick up some more paint and a little more medium, just the corner of the brush, and work it into your canvas here. To where it will cover where your rose area is. Now you can make an outline here of what you want to cover, like that. And you can tell when your paint is too thick because it'll drag on you on your palette. And when it does that, you will want to dip in a little medium and then just spread the paint out. You don't want anything real thick on here. We paint thin to thicker as we start layering all of this. And it can be a little messy. The outside edges can be messy. Okay, and I know we're going to lose our pattern here. And you're going to think, oh no, lost my pattern. But you will have a pattern on your instructions there. Okay, so go ahead and do that much. Get a thin coat of this floral pink. It's okay if you get a little bit of that green color in on your petals. Okay, now this is the first rose. I think they look more like loose poppies, but go ahead and paint your next two roses here in this floral pink, and then we will go ahead and put our darks in. Okay, back in a few. Now I'm going to come back and show you how to do the leaves. I have everything blocked in for the little roses here, and I started the poppy, but I realized, you know what, I need to do the leaves because the leaves are under the poppies. So I got ahead of myself there, so just kind of disregard that area there. So the leaves are blocked in. This one here is done, and since we have a base color on here, all I need to do is pick up some loose green or loose yellow. And by loose, I mean I pick up and I pull the paint out and I dip the corner of the brush in a little medium, and then I pull it out, and I do the same thing with the yellow. The yellow will need a little medium in that too. I want it fairly loose because I'm going to be doing a stroke on it. So I go ahead and put in the vein. Okay, and I'm going to start with the point going down. That's the way I like to do these. It's easier than doing them straight up and down. So then I come out here. I'm going to come out past where my line is here, and the first stroke is going to be, it's going to be an S stroke, and then pull right up to the center part on that vein that you put in. That's the center. Okay, then I'm just going to wipe the back of the brush there. I'm going to pick up another stroke here, and then I'm going to wipe the back off, and then for the last stroke I'll put one right there. Okay, now on the other side I like to tilt it a little bit, and we'll start right here, and we're going to pull in to the back there. Now I'm going to get that little bitty stroke right there. Okay, wipe your brush on a paper towel like that, touch out here, pull the color in. Now I'm not going to wipe the brush off. I'm going to get another color now. I'll wipe it off, because you're going to keep some of that color you have in there, and then I can go ahead and put the stroke in. Now this is a little bit too smooth for me, so let's go ahead and go out a little further. There we go, to where it's not, they're not all lined up. Okay, now this one here, I'll just wipe my brush on a paper towel, come into some yellow, and I can come back and restroke that. Okay, but see how uneven the edges are? That's what I like. Now if you want them all even, you go ahead and put them all even. Let me get a little more yellow here, and let's just highlight this one a little more. Need a little more yellow. Okay, there we go. Okay, see how uneven that is? Okay, and I can do a little more pronounced point on that. Now that's how I would do all of your leaves. You've got several other leaves in here that you need to do, and just look on your little worksheet here, and you can see how they did their leaves, how they pulled in their leaves. And also on the Bob Ross site, whenever you go to order one of these kits, they have a link there where it will say if you want to watch the video on how to do this. They do have a video on all their kits, on the floral kits, how to paint them. Okay, and watch that too. And then you can go right along with this instruction booklet, and that'll give you something to look at also. But I like doing my leaves this way, rather instead of blocking them all in with one color, I block them in with 3 different values here. Then when I do the leaves, you can see that they end up with different values on your leaves. And I think those are pretty. I don't want the leaves all one basic color. I want them multiple colors. Now we finished the leaves over here. This leaf here, I made a turn leaf out of it instead of a straight leaf. And I went ahead and I started some of the back petals here. Now I do these a little bit different than what they have on here. I like my petals to be transparent on the back petals, and then as I come in, then I start adding a little more paint. Okay, now as we come forward, meaning these petals right in the center, our color is going to get lighter. Okay, and you can see that on your instructions here. See how the outer petals are darker in color as we come into the front of the rose there. See how these petals are a lot lighter. So that's what you need to keep in mind when you're doing this, is that the backer petals are going to be lighter. Now I'm going to dip this brush in a little bit of medium, and I'm just going to work it on my palette here. Let me get this. And it's nothing but medium. And I've got a little spot here that I am working my brush. I did clean it in a little bit of odorless thinner so I could get the paint out of it. But what I'm doing is I'm not adding any color to these outside petals. They've already got color on here. What I'm going to do is just do some strokes so that they remain transparent. So I'm going to start with this one down here. And the first thing that I would do is go to the center part of the petal. Now see how that makes it transparent? And then wipe the brush, on a paper towel, and then come back in that same pile with the medium in it. And now I'm going to stroke some of these bottom petals here. Now see how transparent that makes that petal? See how transparent? And that's what I like to do. And then I'll wipe the brush off again. Now let's go ahead and load some medium back on the brush. And we have a petal right here. You might have to outline your petals. I like to start in the center and come down. And then I'm going to work my petals back on each side here. Now you can see some of the etchings there. When I come back in, it'll take a little bit of that paint off of there. Wipe the brush again. It's important to wipe the brush each time. Let me go into a little more medium. So I put some in the pile there. And I just need to do this little stroke here. Okay. Wipe the brush off again because it's going to pick up that undercolor. Okay, now this comes around like this. Now what I want to do is put this petal, and pull that up. I want this petal on the top here. Okay, so I'm going to come down. And it's okay if you get a little of that green in there. I like that because that's what makes it look a little more transparent too. Is when you pick up your leaf color and it goes into your petals also. Okay, so we've got the outside layer here. Just going to do one right there. And let's see, I can't see. We'll come back and re-highlight some of those that I lost on there. There we go. Now as we come in, we want to make our petals a little lighter as we build in. Now there is another layer down here of petals, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of white and a little bit of this salmon color, and I'm going to dip into the medium, and I'm just going to make a little pile here with some medium and the salmon color, and I'm going to try it out. I probably need it a little lighter here so that it will show up. And let's just try it out, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put a little petal like over here, and that shows up just fine, okay? And stay in that little pile. If you run out of paint, pick up a little more medium. And let me show you what the pile of paint looks like right here. See right here, this one right here. What I did was I took a little white, pulled it in, took a little pink, pulled that in, and then took the corner of my brush, dipped in the medium, and then made a little loose pile right here. Don't want it thick, you want it loose. Not runny, loose. Okay. Now I'm going to come up and I'm going to angle my brush, and I'm just going to edge it to make a little petal right there. Okay, reload your brush. It's going to pick up that bottom color, and so you need to reload it and redress it so that your color, you don't pull in other color. Now I'm going to do another little petal. Let me sketch it out here so that you can see it right here like that. Okay, and sketch it out. I mean, if you're new to painting, you're not going to know where the petals are supposed to be. So, okay, I'm going to go in the center, touch, pull in. I don't pull in all the way. I just edge. I just edge that petal. That's all I do. Reload. Now come back in and do that petal. Now make sure you can see it. If I can't see it, it's almost blending too much. I'm going to pick up a little white. I need a little more white in that, so it'll show up, and then reload. Touch, pull in there. See how we can see it a lot better now with that little edge on there. Okay, and I'm going to come over here and hit that edge right there. I'm going to dress my brush, load both sides. You want to make sure your brush is in that chisel edge there when you start doing these petals. Okay, now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put a little petal right here. Okay, so we're going to touch and pull. This one's going to be pulled in a little bit, kind of like a little C-stroke here. Now I'm just going to edge this right on back, and I can't hardly see that, so I'm going to edge it just a little more white on that. Now when we come back, let's go ahead and edge a few edges here so that we have a little petal there. Sometimes I work off at the back end of the brush. Okay, now I've got 3 little petals right here. Okay, so I'm going to start on those. Just going to edge those like that. Load my brush, both sides, redress it. Okay, notice my strokes are getting shorter. Okay, now come back. These strokes are being pulled in to the center cup part here. Okay, they're shorter and they're being pulled in to the center there. Now I'm going to add some really short strokes into the center. Here, here, here. I'm using that back corner of the brush to pull in some small little petals. Back corner right there. Oops. Okay. So we have the center part done right there. Now I'm going to go into more white. And now as we come forward, our paint's a little thicker. A little thicker. It's not quite so loose. And we're going to do the front cup. Now let's go ahead. For this cup, you kind of want to touch here and you want to swing down for that front cup. You're going to touch right here and then you're going to swing down to this bottom part here. You have to make that cup. Right, and I'm going to make that cup come out a little more. And we're going to swing down. And it's going to pick up some of that dark in there, and that's okay. I can come back up this way. Okay. Soften that edge right there. Pull that right up into your rose. Okay, keep that really soft. Just blend that down a little. I'm barely touching it. I'm just blending it down some. Okay, with oils you have time to do that. Now I'm going to wipe my brush off so it's not quite loaded with a lot of paint there. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a few little leaves or petals right back here. I think it needs a few there, but I'm going to dip in a little oil. Dress my brush till it's in the chisel. And let's go ahead and put, maybe we need a little hint of a leaf, not a leaf, I keep saying leaf, petal right back here. And let's go ahead and do one right here. See how when you start moving forward, you need to do your colors lighter so that they show up. Now I'm going to go ahead and come back. I'm going to restroke this stroke because it needs to be a little lighter. Even lighter from what I had the first time. And I'm using almost right out of the tube white. There's not any oil in this. It's basically right out of the tube white. And we have that one going on there. Okay, and then that one crosses. Oops. Well, let me redo that. I keep losing that one. Hang on. Okay, let's get that one back. Here we go. And I think I want to edge. I want to edge some of these. Let's pick up some white, straight white. I'm going to edge a few of these with the white. There we go. Oops. I went up too far for you. Okay, I'm going to edge a few of these in some white. Now, see how those show up now? So, you know, pick and choose some of your edgings. I'm going to wipe my brush off. Now I went too far down here, and I'm just going to soften that out, barely touching it, so that it still has the rounded edge on it. Okay, so that is how you're going to do. Let's set this down. There we go. Now that is how you're going to do the other two roses that they have here. And you can see, let's see, yeah, this one is the finished rose, this one down here, and you can see on the other bigger ones, they have a little turned leaf in the front, and you can see how they do that with their video that they have on the Bob Ross channel. And of course, then you can come back and you can start highlighting your leaves a little more to where you have a little more bright yellow on them. See how you can just highlight some of those edgings a little bit more. You can start adding a few more highlights on these that you have wherever you have the edgings. You'll probably use some edgings up here on this one. Here's a little yellow right here. We'll just highlight that. And the last thing that I would do is I would come back with some of this opal color that we used for the backdrop, and I would highlight some of these edges with a little bit of that opal. See? You see that little opal color? Yeah. And that adds a nice little cool color to your roses. And it's really important that you have some edgings of cool, and you could have some edgings of warm in there. And for the warm, you could have, of course, some of the yellow. Yellow would mean some sunshine, and the blue would be cool. So you could add a few little edgings of cool and a few little edgings of warm in there on your petals, especially on these outside edges here. Here you go. And that just ties in that just ties in your rose for you. So you have some warm colors and some cool colors in there. All right, go ahead and get that much painted and finish out your roses. And the last thing that you're going to do on these roses is you're going to pick up your liner brush. Here's your liner brush. I'm going to dip in some thinner, and I'm going to pick up some mauve color. Okay, and I'm just going to add some little stamens in here for the roses. Make them real full. Okay, and then for your little stamen tops, just pick up a little yellow. Well, I think we need a little white with that. Get it to show up. Let's see if we can get it to show up. Here we go. Now, can you see that? I don't know if you can see that, but I can see it. And then add your stamens in the center. And they actually have, they show you how to do a little dewdrop. And you might can figure out how they're doing that. I couldn't see well enough to see where they're putting their colors. I know you have to do a dark color, then you do a light color, and then you do a highlight. But I couldn't see well enough on their camera. They weren't close enough to it to see how to do a dewdrop. So if you want to put a dewdrop in, you can do that. Watch their video, and if you can figure it out how to do it, go ahead and put in your dewdrop. You can also go on YouTube and you can say how to paint a dewdrop or a water drop or a raindrop. Any of those will show you easy videos on how to do a little raindrop. And they had one right here. Looks like they have one on one of these petals here. So I might go ahead and put those in later before I finish the painting, but I'm not going to show you how to do those because you can look those up on YouTube. All right, everyone, I will show you the finished painting whenever I get it finished. Okay, everyone, I just wanted to show you the completed painting that we have for these 3 roses. And there's the top. And then this would be the bottom part of it with the leaves. Okay. And I did mine a little different because I did put highlight in the middle. I used some of the yellow and then a little bit of white to give it a highlight right there on the bowl of the rose there. And I think I put a little more extra stamens in it than what they had, and I didn't put the water drop on, but you can do that if you want to. Okay, so that is the completed painting. And the next thing you will want to do is clean your brushes. I only used 3 of the brushes here. I used the liner brush, I used the little round brush, and I used the 1/2-inch flat brush. And once you clean these in your jar of odorless thinner, and you blot those on a paper towel right there, and then when you clean them, you want to clean them with soap and water. And what I use is this Master's brush cleaner and preserver, and this is for oils, acrylics, watercolors, varnishes, glazes, and anything. You can use it on sable bristle or synthetic bristles. I have used this for like 50 years, works really great for your oil painting brushes. So you would just unscrew the cap there, and you'd use some water, and you'd just use your brush, just go back and forth on this cleaner like that, and blot it on a paper towel, clean it 2 or 3 times, and then lay your brushes flat like this. Lay them flat like that to dry. And you would want to get them to a chisel edge, so they're really chiseled before you lay them flat on your paper towel to dry. And you don't do anything with your cleaner, just leave your cleaner as is, and all that sediment will go ahead and settle down in the bottom of your jar there, okay? And then your palette. Now your palette, unless you have a palette cover or whatever to put over your paints will dry up eventually, maybe in 2 or 3 days. I can go ahead and do another little painting on this, which I think I might start a little bit later on, so I can use up some of these paints. And then you'll just want to tear this disposable palette off. It just comes off, and then you just put it in a trash bag, okay? So you want, when you dispose of your oil products, you might want to read how to dispose of those. They might have a center here. I know they have one here in Bakersfield where if you have things that had odorless thinner, which is a flammable product, that you could take that and you could take it to the center and they would dispose of it for you. So you have a couple of options of how you want to get rid of your paper towels or your rags or whatever you used. Make sure your lids are tight. And make sure that you check your surface here, if you use this surface for acrylics also, because it looks like I have a little bit of paint right there. What I'll do is come down here, and it was oil paint, so you want to make sure that you don't have any oil paint on your surfaces that you're painting on. That's why I have a paper towel underneath what I'm doing, for that reason. Sometimes I get a little, I don't get real messy. I'm not a messy painter, get it everywhere. I'm more particular. I don't want it on my brush handles or anything like that, but I do get it on my hands and stuff sometimes. It's going to be by accident. I'm not a painter that wants it all over the place. Also, your paints, make sure the lids are on tight before you put those away. And remember, your oil paints are completely separate from your acrylics, so you want to put them in a little box or something with a lid. Keep all your oil painting supplies in one area, one little box with a lid on it, and mark it. And then that way, when you want to come back and you want to oil paint, then you'll have all your supplies right there, and you won't get your supplies mixed up with your acrylics, because oils and acrylics don't mix, okay? You have to keep them completely separate when you're painting with them. All right, that's all I have right now for you, and I'm so glad you joined me today for this little painting. I had a lot of fun doing this little painting. It's been probably 6 months since I worked with oils, and I still love working with them. But like I say, acrylics have their place. You know, I like working in acrylics too. And when I did this little painting the other day, this little painting is in acrylics. It's in kind of the same colors, but I used acrylic and I painted it wet and wet, just like I would be painting a Bob Ross painting. And I was able to do that with using extenders, Okay, I use Jensen acrylics, and I used the Jensen extender medium, and that allowed me to keep my surface wet for over an hour so that I could do all the background foliage, hydrangeas, all of that. And then I let it dry, and then I put another coat of this extender once it was dry on the top with a sponge. So I had a light coat on it, and then I painted all of these roses wet and wet, just like what we did here with the oils, but I was using acrylics. So the extenders really help if you want to paint more like your acrylics, more like oils. You have to use those extenders. Okay, thank you so much for joining me, and until next time, take care, and I'll see you then. Bye for now.